The rain hit like 1,000 tiny fists, turning the street into a war zone of sound and water. I pulled my jacket tighter, though the broken zipper made it pointless. Water seeped through anyway, finding every gap, every hole in my defenses. Much like my life, really. Always finding the cracks. 3 more blocks. Just 3 more blocks to my shoebox apartment where the heat didn't work and Mrs. Chun upstairs argued with her husband until 2 a.m. in Mandarin I didn't understand but felt in my bones. But it was mine. Barely. If I could scrape together rent by Friday. My phone screen glowed 3 battery. No money for the bus. Never money for the bus. The canvas of my sneakers had given up the fight against the rain 2 blocks ago. Each step now a cold squelch that reminded me I couldn't afford new ones. Wouldn't be able to for months. St. Catherine's free clinic didn't pay much. Didn't pay enough. But it was all I could handle after Mateo died. After I'd failed him. After I'd learned that some neighborhoods got ambulances in 8 minutes, and some got them in 47. The backpack on my shoulders held my dinner. 1 granola bar, smashed flat. Medical supplies I'd borrowed because patients needed them and budget cuts were strangling us. And bills. Always bills. Red stamped. Final notice. The trifecta of my existence. I should have seen the alley coming. Should have crossed the street. But exhaustion makes you stupid. And I'd been awake for, what? 26 hours? 27? The double shift had bled into inventory, which had bled into paperwork, which had bled into Dr. Martinez begging me to stay just 2 more hours because Rosa was out sick. That's when I heard it. A sound that didn't belong to the rain or the distant sirens or the hiss of steam rising from the manhole covers. Wet, ragged, breathing like drowning. I stopped. My mother's voice, clear as if she stood beside me instead of 6 years in the ground. We don't get to choose when to care, Mija. That's not how it works. This is stupid, I muttered, already turning toward the alley. This is so monumentally stupid. The flickering streetlight cast strobing shadows across the narrow space between buildings. Garbage bags split open, their contents mixing with rainwater. The smell hit me. Rotting food, urine, wet cardboard where someone's shelter had dissolved in the storm. And underneath it all, sharp and metallic, blood. He was crumpled against the dumpster like someone had thrown him away. Blood pooled around him, spreading through the water like ink, catching the neon reflections from the bodega sign across the street. Pink, blue, pink, blue, the colors of dying. Oh God! The words escaped before I could stop them. Multiple gunshot wounds. Even in the bad light, I could see at least 3. Shoulder, abdomen, thigh. His suit was expensive, or had been before someone had used him for target practice. The watch on his wrist probably cost more than my yearly salary. His face was obscured by blood and shadow, but I could see the strong line of his jaw, the way his hands, calloused but manicured, pressed against his stomach, trying to hold himself together. My training kicked in, overriding the screaming voice in my head that said run. ABC, I whispered, dropping to my knees in the filthy water. Airway, breathing, circulation. Okay. Pressure on the abdomen first. That's the bleeder. I pressed my jacket against his stomach. He jerked, a wet sound escaping his throat. Don't talk, I said, forcing my voice to stay steady. Save your energy. I'm a nurse. I've got you. His eyes opened. I scray, startling against the blood. His hand shot out, fingers circling my wrist with surprising strength for a man bleeding out. No! His accent was thick, each word a struggle. No. Hospitals. They'll finish. My stomach dropped. You have multiple GSWs. You'll die without. Then, I die with honor. His eyes rolled back. Hey! I grabbed his face, checking his airway. Still breathing, pulse thready but there. You don't get to die on me. I didn't ruin my only jacket for nothing. I ripped open my backpack. Gauze. Surgical tape. Antiseptic I'd borrowed for exactly this kind of situation, though I'd imagined using it at the clinic. Not in a piss-soaked alley with a man who'd rather die than see a doctor. This is insane, I muttered, cutting away his shirt with the scissors from my kit. I'm performing triage in an alley with a dying man who's afraid of hospitals. The wounds were bad. The shoulder looked like a through and through. Thank God. The thigh had missed the femoral artery by inches. Another miracle. But the abdomen was bad. Entry wound, no exit. The bullet was still in there, and I couldn't do anything about that here. I packed the wounds as best I could, my hands moving with a competence my brain didn't feel. His skin was hot under my fingers. Beneath the copper smell of blood, I caught something else. Expensive cologne. Gun oil. Leather and cedar. This man lived in a different world than mine. Tattoos covered his torso. Dates. Names. Symbols I didn't recognize. His body was a map of violence, scars layering over scars. Military-grade physique despite the holes currently leaking his life into the gutter. I sat back on my heels, looking at him. Really looking. I could leave. Should leave. Call 911 anonymously and disappear into the rain. Let the system handle it. But Mateo's face swam in my vision. 16 years old. Diabetic ketoacidosis. 47 minutes for an ambulance that arrived too late. Because our neighborhood wasn't a priority. Because some lives matter less. Damn it. I grabbed the man's face again. Damn it. Okay. I managed to rouse him enough to get him semi-upright. He was heavy, 6 feet 2 inches to my 5 feet 4 inches, probably 190 pounds of muscle and bad decisions. Come on, you heavy bastard. Work with me here. He mumbled something in a language I didn't recognize. Italian, maybe? His arm draped over my shoulders, and I staggered under his weight. 3 blocks. Just 3 blocks. They became an odyssey. Every shadow was a threat. Every sound of footsteps behind us sent my heart into my throat. He drifted in and out, muttering names, phrases I couldn't understand. Once he called out sharp and desperate, and I had to shush him like a child, terrified someone would hear. If he dies in my apartment, I'm going to prison. I whispered to no one. If whoever shot him finds us, I'm dead. Why am I like this? Mr. Rodriguez was walking his dog on the corner, 3 a.m. insomnia and a chihuahua named Killer. I ducked down a side street, taking the long way around. Mrs. Chun caught us on the stairs. She stood in her doorway, pink bathrobe and knowing eyes taking in the scene. Me, soaked and exhausted, half carrying a man twice my size. My boyfriend. I lied breathlessly. Too much to drink. She looked at the blood I'd missed on his collar. At the way I struggled under his weight. At the desperation in my eyes. He better be worth the trouble, Mija. He's really not, I muttered, dragging him up the last flight. My apartment was a testament to poverty dressed up as independence. 320 square feet of Murphy bed that stuck, kitchenette with 2 working burners, and a bathroom door that didn't close all the way. The window overlooked a fire escape and a brick wall. Milk crates served as bookshelves. The chair was losing its stuffing. The TV was from 2010. My nursing diploma hung on the wall, glass cracked from when I'd thrown my phone at it during a particularly dark night. Photos of my family. Mom, Dad, Mateo, all smiling, all gone. Medical textbooks held together with rubber bands. Bills on the counter, red stamped, screaming. A calendar with shifts marked. Days crossed off like a prisoner counting toward freedom that never came. Instant ramen cups stacked by the sink. This was my life. And I just brought a bleeding stranger into it. I cleared the Murphy bed with one arm, lowering him as gently as I could. Under proper light, the wounds looked worse. I worked methodically, cutting away the rest of his clothes, cleaning each wound properly. The bullet in his abdomen would need a surgeon. The best I could do was pack it, pray it hadn't hit anything vital, and hope his body could handle the trauma. I set up in 4, fluids I'd stolen from the clinic, antibiotics meant for Mrs. Rodriguez's grandson's pneumonia. Stitched what I could with hands that had stopped shaking somewhere around the 4th suture. His face, cleaned of blood, was beautiful in a way that felt dangerous even unconscious. Sharp cheekbones, dark stubble, lips pressed into a thin line even in sleep, like he was guarding secrets. I fell into the broken chair, the one I'd been meaning to throw out for 2 years, and watched him breathe. 1 a.m., fever rising. 2 a.m., nightmares. He thrashed, called out names: Marco, Giovanni, Sofia. 3 a.m., his eyes opened again. Who are you? The idiot who pulled you out of an alley. How are you feeling? Like I've been shot 3 times. That's because you have been. Do you want to tell me who did it? A ghost of a smile. No. Do you want to tell me your name? Even less. Great. I'm harboring a John Doe who might be a criminal. Might be. He lost consciousness before I could respond. I hadn't slept in 27 hours. 87 in my bank account. Rent due Friday, $850, might as well be $850,000. Student loans that would follow me to the grave. This man, this beautiful, dangerous stranger, was the most exciting and stupid thing I'd done since ever. Dawn crept through the window, turning the brick wall outside from black to gray. Light hit his face, softening the hard lines. He looked almost peaceful. I fell asleep in the chair, my last coherent thought a prayer. Please don't die. Please don't turn out to be a serial killer. Please don't let this ruin my life more than it already is. But deep down I knew. My life had just changed forever. I woke to the sound of singing. Not singing exactly. Speaking. Rapid fire. Melodic. Angry. Italian, I thought, though I'd never been good with languages. The words tumbled over each other like water over rocks, sharp and fluid at once. My neck screamed in protest as I lifted my head from where it had been bent at an unnatural angle against the chair. Gray morning light filtered through my single window, turning everything the color of old newspapers. For one blissful second, I didn't remember. Then I saw him. He was sitting up in my Murphy bed, shirtless, my phone pressed to his ear. Under proper daylight, without the blood and rain and shadows, he looked like God had taken a classical sculpture and decided to make it breathe. All sharp angles and old-world aristocracy, marred only by the very new wounds decorating his torso and the dangerous intelligence in those ice-gray eyes. He spotted me. The Italian stopped mid-word. He ended the call with a single phrase and set my phone down on the milk crate beside the bed. You're on my phone. My voice came out rough, sleep-thick. I needed to make calls. I'll replace it. I lurched forward, snatching it back. The screen showed 1 battery and 3 outgoing international calls, each lasting over 10 minutes. That's not. Who even are you? He stood, testing his injuries with the careful movement of someone accustomed to pain. The bandages I'd applied held, but blood had seeped through in places. He should be flat on his back, unconscious, dying. Instead, he moved across my tiny apartment like he owned it. Someone very grateful. That's not an answer. It's the only one I can give right now. Heat flared in my chest, anger cutting through the fog of exhaustion. Try again. I saved your life. You were shot. Multiple times. In an alley. You refused hospitals. I'm harboring. I don't even know what I'm harboring. He turned to face me fully, and something shifted in his expression. Recognition. Assessment. His eyes moved over me slowly, taking in my ratty sleep shirt, the way my hair had escaped its bun to create a halo of frizz, the purple shadows under my eyes. Really looking at me for the first time. You're harboring Lorenzo Vitali. His accent wrapped around the words like silk over steel. And you've created a very complicated situation, Piccola. The name meant nothing. Should it have? His expression said it should. You really don't know. Amusement flickered across his face. There and gone. How refreshing. Know what? Are you famous? A politician? Even as I said it, I knew how stupid it sounded. Politicians didn't get shot 3 times and refuse hospitals. I am, he began. The knock cut him off. Heavy. Authoritative. The kind of knock that said open up without words. Lorenzo's entire demeanor shifted. The amused, grateful patient vanished. What stood before me was a predator, suddenly awake. He moved toward the door despite his injuries, every muscle coiled. I blocked his path, heart hammering. This is my apartment. I'll handle it. His hand caught my wrist, gentle but immovable. Maya, how do you know my name? Your diploma. On the wall. He released me. Be careful what you say. I moved to the door on legs that felt like water. Through the peephole, I saw a man in an expensive suit, an earpiece visible, face professionally blank. Behind him, the hallway was filled with more men, all in black, all standing at attention. Oh God! The words escaped as a whisper. I opened the door a crack, the chain still engaged. Can I help you? Miss Santos. His English was perfect, barely accented. My name is Domenico. I am Mr. Vitali's associate. We've been searching for him all night. I don't know. Lorenzo appeared behind me, silent as smoke. Domenico's entire face transformed. Relief so profound it was almost painful to witness. Grazie a Dio. He switched to rapid Italian, but Lorenzo cut him off with a raised hand. English. For Miss Santos. I looked down the hallway. Mrs. Chun stood in her doorway, eyes wide. Mr. Rodriguez was recording on his phone. The superintendent, Mr. Jackson, looked like he was deciding whether to call the police or have a heart attack. I counted 15 men in black suits. 15. In my hallway. In my building where the elevator barely worked and half the mailboxes had been broken for a year. What the hell is this? I turned to Lorenzo. My security. Security? I moved to my window, looking down at the street below. My heart stopped. The entire block was lined with black SUVs. Not 5, not 10. The entire street, from corner to corner, was cordoned off by vehicles that probably cost more than my building. Men in suits created a perimeter, speaking into earpieces, hands resting near their jackets where I knew there were guns. Oh my God! Oh my God! I backed away from the window. What are you? Lorenzo stood in my tiny apartment, shirtless and bandaged, surrounded by his small army. I tried to tell you. It's complicated. Complicated is my student loans. Complicated is the subway schedule. I gestured wildly at everything. This is insane. Domenico stepped forward, polite but insistent. Mr. Vitali, we need to secure you. This location is... I know what it is. Lorenzo switched to Italian, rapid and commanding. 3 men entered my apartment without asking. They moved with military precision, checking my windows, testing my fire escape, examining sightlines. One spoke into his earpiece, relaying information I couldn't understand. Another photographed my apartment layout with a device I didn't recognize. I stood frozen in my own home, watching strangers dissect my life. What are you saying? I demanded. What's happening? Lorenzo switched back to English. We're securing the building. This isn't your building to secure. A new man appeared in my doorway, older, silver-haired, carrying a medical bag that probably cost more than my nursing degree. He moved to Lorenzo with the ease of long practice, already opening his kit. Wait, you need to. My professional instincts kicked in. I am Dr. Rossi. I have handled Mr. Vitali's medical needs for 15 years. He didn't look at me. Thank you for your field work. The dismissal stung like a slap. Field work. As if I hadn't saved this man's life with nothing but borrowed supplies and desperation. Lorenzo caught my expression. Something flickered in his eyes, regret, maybe, but he said nothing as Dr. Rossi began his examination, cutting away my careful bandages, sking at the wounds. I watched Lorenzo watch me. His gaze moved over my apartment, taking in details I suddenly saw through his eyes. The cracked diploma, the red-stamped bills on my counter, the instant ramen cups, the broken chair, the entire shabby evidence of my struggling existence. Understanding dawned in his face. Not pity, something worse. Recognition. He knew exactly what drowning looked like. Domenico appeared beside him, speaking low and fast in Italian. I caught words here and there. Not secure. Ground floor. Relocate. What are you saying? My voice came out sharper than intended.
Lorenzo met my eyes.
We're discussing building security. In my building, the elderly woman upstairs and the man with the dog will be compensated for temporary relocation. We'll need the apartments adjacent and above secured until... You can't just kick out my neighbors. I can. And I will. For your safety as much as mine. The pieces were falling into place, each one hitting like a stone. The expensive suit. The men with guns. The way Domenico and the others moved with military precision. The 3 bullets someone had put in him. Your mob. Not a question. Lorenzo's non-reaction was confirmation enough. I saved a mafia boss. My voice had gone flat with shock. I brought a mafia boss to my apartment. He sat on my bed, still shirtless, still being examined by Dr. Rossi, who worked around our conversation like we weren't there. Technically, I am not mob. I am an international businessman with complicated relationships. Domenico made a sound that might have been a cough or a laugh. Oh, well, that's totally different then. Hysteria bubbled up in my throat. Dr. Rossi stepped back, addressing Lorenzo in rapid Italian. I caught enough to understand. The wounds were stable. I'd done good work. He needed minor surgery for the remaining bullet. Infection risk was manageable. Lorenzo dismissed him with a nod. The doctor packed his expensive bag and left without another glance at me. We were alone, if you could call it alone, with armed men in my hallway and an army on my street. Sit. Please. Lorenzo gestured to my broken chair. In my own apartment? Thanks for permission. His lips curved slightly. You have fire. Good. You'll need it. I saved your life. I remained standing. You did. I'm a nurse. It's what I do. In an alley. In the rain. When I told you not to help. You risked yourself, your home, your freedom. Yeah. And I'm starting to regret. I owe you a debt. He leaned forward, wincing slightly. In my world, debts are sacred. They are paid. I don't want anything from you. His eyes moved to the bills on my counter. To the calendar with shifts marked and crossed off. To the empty ramen cups. Don't you? The humiliation of being seen, truly seen, burned hotter than anger. When is your rent due? That's none of your... Friday. I heard you crying in your sleep about it. I wanted to throw something. Wanted to scream. Wanted to rewind to yesterday when my biggest problem was an impossible rent payment. Not an impossible man bleeding in my bed. Let me help you. His voice gentled. Not charity, payment for services rendered. You gave me my life. Let me give you options. What kind of options? The rent. Your student loans. A position with better pay than a free clinic. I don't want mob money. All money is mob money if you trace it back far enough. The question is whether you're comfortable with the source. That's not. You're drowning, Maya. He stood, moving closer. I can see it. I know what drowning looks like. Let someone throw you a rope. Get out. The words came from somewhere deep. All of you. Now. Lorenzo studied me for a long moment. Then nodded. As you wish. Really? Your apartment. Your choice. He moved toward the door, where Domenico waited with a fresh shirt. But my men will remain on your building. What? He turned back, and his face had lost all softness. The people who shot me will learn you helped me. That makes you a target. My blood turned to ice. What? Domenico pulled out a tablet, approaching with reluctance. We found surveillance photos. They know where you live, Miss Santos. The screen showed my apartment building. Me entering at various times. Close-ups of my face. Date stamps from the last 3 days. This is a nightmare. This is reality. Lorenzo's voice was matter-of-fact. You stepped into my world when you saved me. And in my world, enemies are ruthless. Then help me disappear. New identity, new city. They'll find you. They have resources. The only place you're truly safe is under my protection. I looked at him, this beautiful, dangerous stranger I'd pulled from death. At the apartment that had been my refuge and was now my cage. At the future that had just shattered like my diploma's glass. How long? Until the threat is eliminated. And then, something flickered in his eyes. Then you choose. Outside my window, 1,000 black cars waited. Inside my apartment, Lorenzo Vitali watched me drown. And God help me, I let him throw the rope. I didn't sleep. How could I? Every time I closed my eyes, I saw men with guns. Surveillance photos. My face in crosshairs. The knowledge that somewhere in this city, people I'd never met wanted me dead because I'd chosen compassion over common sense. Lorenzo had left with his army of suits, promising protection I hadn't asked for and couldn't refuse. The silence after they'd gone was worse than the chaos of their presence. At least with them there, I'd had something to be angry at. Now I just had fear. Dawn came slowly, turning my brick wall view from black to gray to dirty gold. I was staring at it, trying to convince myself this was all a nightmare, when the sound started. Car doors. Dozens of them. Engines rumbling. Voices calling out in Italian. I went to the window. I counted. Stopped at 60. 60 black SUVs lined my street like a funeral procession. Or a presidential motorcade. Or an invasion. They stretched from corner to corner, double-parked, blocking traffic, creating a spectacle that would have the entire neighborhood talking for years. No. No, no, no. I pressed my forehead against the glass. The knocking started immediately. Mrs. Chin first. Mija, what did you do? Her voice carried through my thin door, equal parts concerned and terrified. Mr. Rodriguez next. There are news vans coming. Channel 7 is setting up on the corner. The superintendent, Mr. Jackson, didn't knock. He pounded. Miss Santos, you need to leave. This is disrupting the entire building. I have residents complaining, police asking questions. I opened the door a crack. His face was red, sweat beading on his forehead despite the cool morning. I didn't ask for this. I don't care what you asked for. You need to go. Now. Behind him, every door on my floor stood open. Neighbors gawked, phones out, recording everything. Mrs. Chun wrung her hands. Mr. Rodriguez's dog barked hysterically. The college students across the hall whispered and pointed. This was my home. These were my neighbors. And I'd just become the scandal that would define the building for the next decade. Another knock. This one different. Polite but unyielding. Domenico stood in my hallway, immaculate in his black suit, completely unbothered by the chaos around him. Miss Santos. Mr. Vitali requests your presence. It's not optional, is it? His smile was kind but didn't reach his eyes. Everything is optional. But some choices are wiser than others. I looked down at myself. Worn t-shirt with a hole near the hem. Sweatpants that had given up elasticity years ago. Hair that hadn't seen a brush since yesterday morning. No makeup. No dignity. Can I at least change? Mr. Vitali is waiting. Of course he was. The walk through my building was a parade of humiliation. Every neighbor watched. Mrs. Chun called out something in Mandarin that sounded like a prayer. Mr. Rodriguez kept recording. The college students took selfies with the SUVs visible through the windows behind them. Domenico walked slightly ahead, parting the crowd with nothing but his presence. 2 more men in suits flanked me. Not touching, not threatening, but there. Always there. The street was worse. Every eye within 3 blocks was on me. The news van Mr. Rodriguez mentioned had indeed arrived, A reporter speaking into a camera while gesturing at the spectacle. Police officers stood at the barriers Lorenzo's men had erected, looking confused about jurisdiction and protocol. And me, shuffling through it all in my ratty pajamas and holy sneakers, looking like exactly what I was. A woman in way over her head. The central SUV waited, back door open, interior gleaming. Leather seats. Technology built into every surface. And there, in a compartment that hadn't been fully closed, the unmistakable shape of weapons. I climbed in because what else was I going to do? The door closed with a sound like a bank vault ceiling. The noise outside became muffled, distant. The interior smelled like leather and money and the particular scent of power. Something I'd never noticed before but recognized instantly now. We drove. Through my neighborhood, past the bodega where I bought lottery tickets I never won, past St. Catherine's where I'd worked doubles until my feet bled. Past the life I'd been living in survival mode for so long I'd forgotten there were other ways to exist. The city gave way to suburbs. Suburbs gave way to countryside. Trees replaced buildings. Space replaced crowded streets. The kind of space that cost more money than I could conceptualize. Then we turned onto a private road. The estate appeared gradually, like something from a dream, or a nightmare. I couldn't decide which. It wasn't a house. Houses had neighbors. This was a compound. 20-foot walls, security gates with actual armed guards who nodded respectfully as we passed, and beyond them, a villa that looked like someone had airlifted it directly from Tuscany. "Oh my God!" I whispered. Domenico, sitting in the front passenger seat, glanced back. "Mr. Vitali values privacy and security. You'll be safe here." Safe. The word had lost all meaning. The circular driveway featured a fountain. An actual fountain with marble figures and water that caught the morning light like diamonds. The villa itself was all honey-colored stone and terracotta tiles, floor-to-ceiling windows reflecting the manicured gardens, art visible even from outside. I stepped out onto marble. My sneakers squeaked. The sound echoed. Staff appeared from nowhere or everywhere. A woman in a crisp black dress, a man in a suit, another woman carrying fresh linens. They moved with the practiced invisibility of people accustomed to wealth, nodding at me with polite neutrality. I looked down at my Target pajamas, at my messy bun held together by a hair tie from 2019, at my complete and total lack of belonging. "I look like someone's before picture in a makeover show," I muttered. "Mr. Vitali is in the morning room." Domenico gestured toward a doorway. Of course there was a morning room, probably an afternoon room too. Maybe an evening room, a midnight room, a 3 a.m. existential crisis room. I followed him through halls that belonged in museums. Real art on the walls, pieces I recognized from textbooks. Canaletto, Caravaggio, things that should be behind velvet ropes and alarm systems. Here they were just decoration. The morning room overlooked grounds that stretched to a private lake. Lorenzo sat in a chair that probably cost more than my car would have if I'd owned a car, reading a newspaper, espresso at his elbow. He was dressed immaculately. Charcoal slacks, white shirt open at the collar, no sign of the man who'd been bleeding to death 24 hours ago. He looked up. "You came. Did I have a choice?" Something flickered in his eyes. Amusement. Approval. "There's always a choice, Maya. You simply made the wise one." A table nearby held what could only be described as a feast. Pastries that looked handmade. Fresh fruit arranged like art. Bread still warm, butter in a crystal dish. Eggs, bacon, things I couldn't identify but knew were expensive. My stomach growled. Loud. Traitorous. Lorenzo's lips curved. "Please. Sit." Pride warred with hunger. Hunger won. I sat. The chair alone probably cost more than my monthly rent. The plate they set before me was porcelain so fine I could see light through it. The silverware had actual weight, the kind that announced quality without trying. I took a bite of pastry. Butter and layers and something that tasted like clouds and childhood dreams. A sound escaped my throat. Half moan, half sob. You're angry. Lorenzo set down his newspaper. You think. I spoke around a mouthful of the best food I'd eaten in years. The security was necessary. 60 cars. 60. My neighbors think I'm a drug dealer now. Better they think that than know the truth. I swallowed. Which is? He set down his espresso, those ice-gray eyes fixed on mine. That you saved the life of Lorenzo Vitali. That you are now under the protection of the Vitali family. That anyone who harms you answers to me. I didn't ask for protection. You put yourself in danger. The protection isn't optional. We stared at each other across the table. Him, immaculate and in control in his palace. Me, rumpled and lost in my pajamas. Two people from different universes forced into the same orbit by 3 bullets and one stupid, compassionate choice. Tell me about your world, I said finally. The real version. Not the complicated businessman version. He leaned back, considering. My family has been in business for 400 years. Import, export, shipping, real estate. All legitimate. And the illegitimate? Also that. No hesitation. No shame. I don't lie about what I am, Maya. I control things others are too weak or too moral to control. The honesty was more disturbing than lies would have been. I could simply pay your debts and release you, he continued. But that solves nothing long-term. You'll be in the same position in 6 months. I'll figure it out. Even I didn't believe the words. Will you? Or will you work yourself to death in a free clinic, eating ramen, choosing between rent and electricity? The accuracy hurt worse than any bullet. I have a proposition. A job. I'm not a mob doctor. No. But I have extensive business dealings. Men who work in dangerous conditions. Construction accidents, industrial injuries. I need a medical professional on site. He took a sip of espresso. Salary. $180,000 per year. I choked on my coffee. $180,000? Plus housing, vehicle, benefits. You'd work at my legitimate business sites. No crime involvement. Simple occupational health. That's more than most nurses make. You're worth more than most nurses. You saved my life with a granola bar and stolen supplies. I set down my cup, trying to find the trap. What's the catch? His smile held no warmth. The catch is that you work for me. You live in my property. You exist in my world. Some will see you as my weakness. Others as my possession. I'm not anyone's possession. No. But you'd be under my protection. Which means rules. Of course there were rules. Security detail 24/7. You cannot leave without clearance. All communications monitored for your safety. You cannot discuss business matters. You cannot contact your old life without supervision. That's prison. That's safety. I'll take my chances. His face hardened. Last night, 2 of my enemies were found dead. Before they died, they gave names. Yours was one of them. The room tilted. Domenico entered with a tablet, approaching reluctantly. On the screen, security footage. My apartment building. Men in dark clothes. Armed. Waiting. Timestamp. 4 a.m. If I'd been home. I'm not trying to own you, Maya. Lorenzo's voice had gentled. I'm trying to keep you alive. This offer, it's real work, real money. But it also puts you in the safest place possible. Here. With me. For how long? My voice came out small. Until the threat is eliminated. Could be weeks. Could be months. And then you decide. Stay with the generous salary and dangerous life. Or take a severance package and disappear to somewhere safe. New identity, new city, clean start. I have resources. I looked around the villa. At Lorenzo, who'd saved me by letting me save him. At the tablet showing men who wanted me dead. At my reflection in the window. Exhausted, poor, trapped between impossible choices. Okay, okay, okay. I'll take the job. I met his eyes. Temporarily. Something passed between us then. Understanding. Acceptance. The acknowledgement that we'd both been changed by 3 bullets and 1 rainy night. Temporarily, he agreed. But we both knew it was a lie. The guest house made me want to cry. Not because it was terrible. Because it was perfect. And that perfection felt like another cage. Gilded and beautiful and absolutely suffocating. 1,200 square feet. Full kitchen with appliances I didn't know how to use. Bathroom with a soaking tub deep enough to drown in. King bed with sheets that probably cost more than my security deposit. Walk-in closet stocked with clothes in exactly my size. A detail that registered somewhere between thoughtful and deeply creepy. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked gardens that looked painted. But in every corner, in every angle of glass, I could see the cameras. Small. Discreet. Watching. You never leave the grounds without escort, Domenico explained, walking me through security protocols like he was explaining how to use the coffee maker. Even to walk the gardens. The bracelet is a panic button. Press and hold for 3 seconds, and guards arrive within 90 seconds. The bracelet was delicate, silver, beautiful. Felt like a shackle. Mr. Vitali takes your safety very seriously. I met the staff over the next few hours. Rosa, the housekeeper, was warm and maternal, with knowing eyes that saw too much. She brought me tea and told me where everything was and called me Mija, like my mother used to. Carlo, head of security, was 6'4" of intimidation wrapped in an expensive suit. He nodded once, told me the rules again, and made it clear that breaking them would disappoint him. Somehow that felt worse than anger. Dr. Rossi appeared at my door that evening, hat literally in hand. Miss Santos, I wish to apologize for my rudeness yesterday. Mr. Vitali explained the circumstances of his rescue. Your work was exemplary. The apology felt like another brick in the wall being built around me. The medical facility, though, that almost made it worth it. I'd been expecting a first aid kit. Maybe a cabinet with basic supplies. Instead, Lorenzo showed me a full clinic, exam room, pharmacy stocked better than St. Catherine's surgical equipment that made my fingers itch to use it. For the workers, he said, leaning against the doorframe, arms still in a sling. And for me, apparently, given my tendency to get shot. Despite everything, the cameras, the guards, the golden cage, I was impressed. This is incredible. You'll have full autonomy over medical decisions. My men's health is not negotiable. The first week passed in a blur of surreal moments. Day 1, I treated a construction worker's crushed finger at one of Lorenzo's development sites. The men were wary at first, eyeing me like I was another spy for management. But I was competent, didn't judge the marijuana smell on one guy's breath, and by lunch they were warming up. One even shared his empanadas. Day 3, I did safety inspections at a warehouse. OSHA violations everywhere. Frayed wiring, blocked exits, equipment without proper guards. The foreman, a man who looked like he ate nails for breakfast, told me to mind my own business. Lorenzo arrived 20 minutes later. I didn't know who called him. Is there a problem? His voice was silk over steel. Yes. Half this warehouse is a death trap. The foreman started to protest. Lorenzo cut him off with a look. Fix it. All of it. She's in charge of safety now. The power that suddenly coursed through me was intoxicating and terrifying. Day 5, a worker fell from scaffolding. I stabilized him, called an ambulance, rode with him to the hospital. Guards followed in their own vehicle, creating a motorcade for a man with a broken leg and possible internal injuries. The hospital staff recognized them, recognized what they represented. The whispers started immediately. I could feel them assessing me, placing me in Lorenzo's world, making assumptions I couldn't correct without lying. By day 7, I was exhausted in a way that had nothing to do with physical work. When Rosa knocked on my door that evening with a dress bag, I almost sent her away. Mr. Vitali requests your presence for dinner. I'm tired, Rosa. He specifically requested. Her eyes were kind but firm. And Mija, you need proper clothes for the main villa. The dress was simple but elegant, black, fitted, expensive. I emerged from my bedroom feeling like an imposter, like a little girl playing dress-up in her mother's closet. Rosa's smile said otherwise. Hermosa. Beautiful. The main villa's formal dining room could seat 30. Only 2 places were set at the intimate end. Candles, wine already poured, food that looked more like art than sustenance. Lorenzo rose when I entered. Casual clothes but expensive, everything on him expensive. His arms still in a sling, a reminder that just over a week ago, I'd been stitching him together in my falling-apart apartment. We looked at each other across the candlelight. 2 people from different universes, tied together by 3 bullets and 1 stupid, compassionate choice. How was your first week? He gestured for me to sit. Surreal. I went from counting pennies to having a panic button that summons armed guards. You've had to use it? No. But I'm aware of it every second. Does it feel like imprisonment? I considered, taking a sip of wine that probably cost more than my weekly grocery budget used to. It feels like being a bird in a really nice cage. Still a cage, though. He nodded slowly. Honest. I appreciate that. The wine flowed. The conversation deepened. And somehow we went from employer and employee to 2 people who'd both been broken by the same kind of loss. My parents, immigrant nurses who'd worked themselves to early graves, dying in a car accident when I was 19. Mateo, my baby brother, who I'd raised alone, who'd had diabetes, who died at 16 because insulin costs money and ambulances take 47 minutes to arrive in neighborhoods like ours. I was in med school, I heard myself say, had it all planned out. Then he died and I couldn't be in those rooms anymore. Couldn't watch people die because of zip codes and bank accounts. Lorenzo's eyes held something I hadn't expected. Recognition. I was 19 when they killed my parents, he said quietly. Rival family. They came at night, executed them in our home. I had to take over the empire or watch it crumble. First year, I killed 12 men. Personally, the number should have horrified me. Instead, I understood. You did what you had to do. Does that make it right? Does my brother dying because we couldn't afford better healthcare make that right? We stared at each other across the table. Both shaped by loss. Both understanding violence and powerlessness. Neither having chosen our paths exactly. Both just trying to survive. You're not what I expected, he said finally. What did you expect? Scared little nurse. I expected competence. Not this. This. Intelligence. Strength. Beauty that isn't performed. The air changed. Thickened. The space between us became electric. After dinner, he offered to show me the grounds. Despite guards at every corner, it felt private. Moonlight turned the reflecting pools to mirrors. Night-blooming jasmine made the air heavy and sweet. We stopped at a fountain. His hand brushed mine. Not an accident. Maya. My name in his accent did something to me I didn't want to examine. This is a bad idea. Undoubtedly. You're my employer. Sort of my captor. Definitely a criminal. All true. I should go back to the guest house. You should. Neither of us moved. He leaned in. I didn't pull back. The moment suspended, hovering between possibility and reality. A radio crackled. Mr. Vitali, we have a situation. The spell shattered. Domenico appeared from the shadows, face grim. We apprehended someone at the north perimeter. Lorenzo's entire demeanor shifted. The gentle man vanished. The dangerous boss emerged. Go inside. Lock your doors. I watched him stride away, all predatory grace despite his healing wounds. Frightening. Attractive. Both at once. Back in my guest house, I paced. Adrenaline from the almost kiss mixed with adrenaline from danger. Through my window I could see the main villa. Lights on in Lorenzo's study. Shadows moving. Shouting in Italian I couldn't understand but felt in my bones. He was hurting someone. Right now. While I stood in luxury and safety. Rosa appeared with tea. You're safe, Mija. He would never let harm come to you. He's hurting someone right now. That someone came to hurt you. There's a difference. Is there? Her eyes held wisdom I didn't want. In his world? Yes. You'll learn. Or you'll leave. But don't judge what you don't understand. My phone rang. Direct line. First time he'd called me. Are you all right? Are you? Pause. The man we caught was sent to gather information. About you. They know you're here. Who are they? The Calabrese family. They think taking you hurts me. Another pause, longer. Does it? Yes. The confession hung between us through the phone line. Lorenzo, this is... I know. Too much, too fast. You didn't ask for this. No. I was gonna say it's terrifying. But also, I don't hate it. Being here. With you. I should. But I don't. I hate that you're in danger because of me. I chose to help you. And I chose to accept that help. That choice. I'd make it again. But I wish the cost wasn't yours to pay. What happens now? Now? We eliminate the threat. And we figure out what this is between us. This? Don't pretend you don't feel it, Maya. I'm many things, but I'm not wrong about chemistry. Despite everything, I smiled. Arrogant much? Always. Get some sleep. Tomorrow, training begins. Training. If you're in my world, you need to know how to survive it. Again. Carlo's voice held no sympathy. My muscles screamed. Sweat dripped into my eyes. I'd been at this for 2 hours. I can't. Again. Week 2 of my new life, and Carlo had decided I needed to know how to fight. Not fight well. Just fight enough to create an opening, to run, to survive. You're small. He'd said that first day, circling me like a shark assessing prey. Use it. Go for eyes, throat, groin. You're not trying to win. You're trying to escape. Hours of repetition. Duck strike, run. Duck strike, run. My body learning movements my mind still rejected. She telegraphs. Lorenzo's voice from the doorway made me stumble. I hadn't heard him arrive. Every move she signals first. Teach her to be unexpected. He moved into the gym, the actual gym in the main villa, with equipment that probably cost more than a car. His arm was out of the sling now, wounds healing with the kind of speed that spoke to excellent medical care and sheer stubbornness. Show me, Carlo said, stepping back. Lorenzo moved behind me, hands settling on my hips to adjust my stance. Professional. Instructional. But charged with something that made my skin feel too tight. Don't think. React. His breath against my ear. The moment you think, you're already dead. He demonstrated a hold on Carlo. Smooth, efficient, brutal. Despite healing wounds, he moved like violence was a language he spoke fluently. Then it was weapons. I didn't want to. Stood in the shooting range in the basement, because of course there was a shooting range in the basement, and stared at the gun like it might bite. I'm a nurse. I save lives, not... You don't have to use it. Lorenzo's voice was patient. But you should know how. He stood behind me, adjusting my stance. Hands on my waist, on my arms, positioning me. Breathe. Squeeze. Don't pull. The first shot made me jump. The recoil traveled up my arms, foreign and terrifying. Again. By the end of the session, I'd hit center mass 3 times. Lorenzo's pride was visible, warming something in his eyes that had nothing to do with instruction. You're a natural, he said, and I hated how good that made me feel. The business side came next. He included me in meetings, the legitimate ones. Shipping contracts. Real estate developments. Investment portfolios. Board meetings where men twice his age deferred to his every word. I watched him in this context. Brilliant, strategic, commanding. He spoke 4 languages, referenced case law, quoted market analyses from memory. This wasn't just a criminal with a pretty face. This was a mind that could have built empires anywhere. I was attracted to the competence. God help me. Rosa taught me Italian in the evenings. If you're going to survive here, speak the language.
Buongiorno. Buonasera. Per favore. Grazie.
Family dinner with Lorenzo's cousin Marco, Domenico's brother, should have been terrifying. Instead, they were warm, welcoming, treating me like I belonged. Marco's wife asked about my work. Their children showed me drawings. We ate pasta and drank wine and laughed. The cognitive dissonance made my head hurt. These people were killers. And they were nice. 3 weeks in, I'd almost convinced myself this could work. That I could live in this golden cage, do meaningful work, maybe even explore whatever this thing was between Lorenzo and me. Then they came. I was reading in the guest house, a medical journal I'd finally had time to catch up on. Lorenzo was in the main villa with associates. Guards patrolled like always. Everything routine. The explosion turned routine into nightmare. The south wall breached. Alarms shrieking like the world ending. Gunfire, the real kind, not the controlled environment of the shooting range. Close. Too close. I hit the panic button. Held it. Counted to 3 like Domenico had taught me. Carlo burst through my door with 2 guards, weapons drawn. Stay down. They barricaded the door with furniture, speaking rapid Italian into radios. Through the windows I could see them, men in black, not Lorenzo's men. Coordinated assault. Military precision. And they were calling for me.
La ragazza.
The girl. They wanted me. Gunfire erupted closer. Carlo returned fire through a window, then took a bullet to the shoulder. He went down hard.
Carlo.
Get her to the safe room. He shoved one of the guards toward me. Go. Antonio, young, maybe 25, scared but determined, grabbed my arm. We ran through a door I'd never noticed. Downstairs I didn't know existed. Into a tunnel that smelled like earth and fear. Above us, the battle raged. Footsteps. Shouting. The distinctive crack of different weapons. Men dying. For me, the safe room was concrete and monitors. On the screens, I watched the war zone my sanctuary had become. Lorenzo's men fighting. Falling. Dying to protect this place. To protect me. Lorenzo himself moved through the chaos like death incarnate. Efficient. Brutal. No hesitation. This was the monster he'd warned me about, and it was beautiful and terrible at once. Antonio tried to calm me with platitudes. Mister, Vitali will handle this. He always does. Minutes felt like hours. Then his radio crackled. Antonio, we're coming to you. Don't shoot. The door opened. Lorenzo stood there, blood splattered. Not his, I could tell. Fury in his ice-gray eyes.
Grazie a Dio.
He crossed to me in 3 strides, hands framing my face, checking for injuries with touch and gaze. You're all right? I'm okay. Carlo, he was shot. He'll live. To Antonio. The men, 6 intruders. All dead. We lost 3. Lorenzo's eyes closed briefly. Pain there, real and raw. They came for me. My voice sounded distant to my own ears. Yes. How many people have to die because I helped you? His expression hardened. As many as it takes. You think I'll apologize for protecting you? 3 of your men knew the risks. Died doing their duty. They'll be honored. His voice was cold, absolute. And the men who sent these assassins will be dead by morning. I saw him clearly then. Not the man who'd adjusted my shooting stance with gentle hands. Not the businessman who quoted market analyses. The killer. You're going to kill them. Personally. The property was secured within the hour. Bodies removed with efficiency that spoke to practice. Wall already being repaired. My guest house was damaged. bullet holes in the windows, blood on the floor where Carlo had fallen. I was moved to the main villa, to Lorenzo's study, where he cleaned weapons with the same care Rosa used arranging flowers. You don't have to do this. Yes, I do. He didn't look up. More killing doesn't what? His eyes met mine, hard as the concrete safe room. Solve things? In your world, perhaps. In mine, it's the only language understood. They attacked my home. Tried to take you. If I don't respond with absolute force, I'm seen as weak. More will come. So you kill them, then their families retaliate, then you retaliate, endless cycle. Yes. That doesn't bother you? It's the only way I know to keep you safe. Maybe I shouldn't be here then. Maybe I should take that severance, disappear. He stood abruptly. They'll find you. You could help me. I could. He controlled himself with visible effort. I could give you new identity, new life. But Maya, they know your face now. They know your value. Running means looking over your shoulder forever. Staying means protection. Staying means watching you become more of a monster. He flinched. Actually flinched. I've always been a monster. You just chose not to see it. The honesty was a knife. He laid it out completely. His business, 60% legitimate, 40% not. The not included drugs he didn't deal but controlled territory for, weapons, protection rackets. People he'd killed, 47 personally, hundreds more by order. I protect what's mine. Absolutely. Without mercy. That's who I am. Everything I'd been raised to believe screamed at me. Good. Evil. Clear lines. But reality was this man who'd shown me gentleness and violence in equal measure. This man I was falling for despite every rational thought. What does that make me? That I'm falling for you. Human. Flawed. Like me. He crossed to me. I can send you away. Right now. Give you everything you need to vanish. Or you can stay. Know what I am. What I'll do. And choose me anyway. That's not a choice. It's the only real choice. Made with full knowledge. I kissed him first. Desperate, angry, passionate. All the fear and adrenaline and impossible feelings channeled into this moment. His surprise lasted half a second before he responded. One hand in my hair, the other at my waist, pressing me against the wall. Weapons on the desk behind us. Blood still drying on his shirt. Danger in every breath. This is what I was choosing. We broke apart, both breathing hard. I must be insane. Probably. His thumb traced my jaw. I'm staying. I know. Outside, his men prepared for war. Inside, I surrendered to something far more dangerous than bullets. I surrendered to him. If I'm in this, I end this. Lorenzo looked up from the maps spread across his war room table. Intelligence photos. Building schematics. Surveillance footage. The entire operation to dismantle the Calabrese family laid out like a surgical procedure. Maya? No. I planted my hands on the table, leaning forward. 3 of your men died protecting me. Carlo took a bullet for me. I don't get to hide in my guest house pretending this isn't happening because of me. Something flickered in his eyes. Respect. He nodded once. Domenico, explain the strategy. For the next hour, I watched them plan war with the precision of a military operation. 3-pronged attack. Coordinated strikes. The scale of Lorenzo's power became visible in a way it hadn't been before. This wasn't just a man with guns. This was an empire. We take his operation apart piece by piece, Lorenzo said, marking locations on the map. Make him bleed resources until he has no choice but to negotiate. The next 48 hours were a masterclass in controlled destruction. Night 1, Calabrese's drug warehouse burned. $50 million in product gone. I watched the news footage from Lorenzo's study. Suspected electrical fire. The reporter said. Lorenzo's slight smile said otherwise. Day 2, 3 of Calabrese's captains died. Car accident. Heart attack. fell down the stairs, each made to look like tragedy, not murder. But the message was clear: we can reach you anywhere. Night 2, they surrounded the Calabrese compound. Not attacking, sieging. Power cut. Water cut. Communications jammed. Lorenzo's patience was more terrifying than his violence. My role was medical support. 2 of his men came back injured from night 1. Gunshot wounds, one with a knife wound that had nicked an artery. I operated in the villa's clinic, hands steady, mind focused. Saved both. When I emerged, blood on my scrubs, exhausted but successful, the men in the hallway looked at me differently. Not just the boss's woman anymore. Their angel. Their healer. Rosa brought me tea afterward. They'll die for you now. Not because Lorenzo orders it. Because you've earned it. The weight of that settled into my bones. On day 3, Calabrese called for parley. I'm coming with you, I said when Lorenzo prepared to leave. Absolutely not. I'm the reason for this war. I should be at its ending. We stared at each other across his study. Finally, he nodded. You stay behind me. You don't speak unless I give you permission. Like hell. His lips twitched. Almost a smile. The meeting was at a neutral location. A warehouse owned by neither family. 5 men each. Calabrese arrived with his lieutenants, older men with hard eyes and harder hearts. Giovanni Calabrese himself was 60-something. Gray at the temples, vicious intelligence in every line of his face. His eyes found me immediately. So this is the woman worth starting a war over? This is the woman you tried to kill, Lorenzo corrected. Difference. She's a nurse. Nobody. Why protect her so fiercely? Lorenzo's answer was simple. Because she's mine. I stepped forward before I could think better of it. I'm not anyone's. But I chose him. And apparently that was enough to make me your target. Calabrese's eyebrows rose. You have fire. Unusual for Vitali's women. I'm not Vitali's woman. I'm Maya Santos. And I'm the woman who saved his life, which started this whole mess. I moved closer to the table between us. So let me end it. Maya, Lorenzo's warning tone. I ignored him. What do you want? Really? Territory? Money? Respect. I want Vitali weakened. You failed. You've lost $50 million, 3 captains, and your reputation. He destroyed you in 48 hours. I let that sink in. You want to keep fighting? You'll lose everything. Or you can negotiate a settlement, save face, live. Silence stretched across the warehouse. Calabrese looked at Lorenzo. She speaks for you? She speaks for herself. But I'm listening. I laid out terms like I was negotiating a hospital contract, not a peace treaty between killers. Give back the territories you took last year. Pay reparations for the attack on the villa. Publicly acknowledge the boundary violations. That's everything. No. Everything would be your life. This way you keep that. Lorenzo's pride was visible, warming his face in ways I'd rarely seen. Against all odds, Calabrese accepted. Terms were signed. As we left, he called out, "She's wasted as a nurse." Lorenzo's hand found the small of my back. She's exactly where she should be. The villa was repaired within the week. Wall rebuilt stronger. Guest house restored. But Lorenzo asked me to stay in the main villa. I want you close. Not a demand. A request. I agreed. Weeks passed. The new normal settled in like dust after a storm. I continued clinic work, but Lorenzo also included me in legitimate business decisions. Valued my perspective. You see things I don't. You're not corrupted by this world yet. Yet. Stay long enough, we all get corrupted. But I wasn't corrupting. I was integrating. Learning names of guards and their families. Attending the funeral for the 3 who died. Standing with their widows who thanked me through tears for trying to save their husbands. The complexity of mourning men who died protecting me from other killers never quite resolved. The clinic expanded. Lorenzo funded it properly, not just for his men, but for the community. Free medical care for poor families. My vision, his resources. Something good grown from darkness. We were together but not officially. Sharing space, not bed. Building tension in stolen moments. Morning coffee, evening walks, Italian lessons where his hands would linger on mine. Learning each other in increments. Rosa caught me smiling one morning. He smiles now too. Hasn't smiled in years before you. 3 months after the alley, Lorenzo planned something. He took me to the lake at sunset. A boat waited, lit with lanterns, stars beginning to emerge overhead. It was gorgeous and terrifying. We sat across from each other, wine poured, the water lapping gently against the hull. 3 months ago, I was bleeding out in an alley. You could have walked past. We've established I make poor life choices. He smiled. The real one. The one that transformed his face from beautiful to devastating. The best poor choice I ever benefited from. Is this where you tell me I can leave? Take the severance. No. He set down his wine. This is where I ask you to stay. Permanently. My heart stopped. Started. Raced. What? I'm not good with feelings, Maya. I show love through protection, through action. But you deserve words too. He took my hands across the small table. His touch was warm, steady, real. I love you. Wholly. Completely. In a way that terrifies me because I've made so many enemies. Loving you makes you a target forever. But I'm selfish enough to want you anyway. Tears formed before I could stop them. Lorenzo, I can't offer normal. I can't offer safe. But I can offer loyalty, protection, everything I have. A life that will never be boring. Partner who sees you completely. And love that will burn down anyone who threatens you. That's the most romantic and terrifying thing anyone's ever said to me. That's my brand. I laughed through tears. I love you too. God help me, I do. That night, finally, we came together. Not in the desperate way of the kiss in his study, but slowly, tenderly. Two broken people finding wholeness in each other. His gentleness despite all his violence. My acceptance of all he was. Morning found us tangled together in his bed, our bed now. I traced the scars on his chest, each one a story of survival. 3 months ago I was broke and alone. Now I was rich and never alone. I should feel trapped. Instead, I felt free. 6 months later, the free clinic opened. Not Lorenzo's clinic for his men. My clinic. For the community. For families like mine had been. Free medical care funded by an anonymous donation that everyone knew came from Lorenzo Vitali. I stood in the waiting room on opening day, watching mothers with sick children, elderly patients who couldn't afford prescriptions, people who'd been ignored by the system finally seen. Lorenzo arrived with Domenico and his ever-present guards. But he was smiling, proud. He met my patients like he was just Maya's partner, not the man who controlled half the city's underworld. A little boy came in with his mother. Diabetes. Needed insulin. My heart stopped. Matteo's face superimposed over this child's. I provided the insulin. Free. The mother cried, thanking me in Spanish my own mother had spoken. I watched the boy clutch his mother's hand. Alive, saved. My eyes found Lorenzo's across the clinic. He understood. This is what it was all for. As we left, guards forming their protective circle around us, he said, "You're changing the world, Piccola. I'm helping one person at a time. That's not world-changing. It is to them. And it is to me. You've made something beautiful from the ugliness of my world. Our world now. Yes, ours." We walked to the waiting SUVs, my small clinic behind us, his massive protection around us. Perfect symbol of our life. Do you ever regret it? I asked. That night in the alley? Never. Except that you were put in danger. But you? Never. I regret not bringing bandages. Everything else? led me here. To you. To this. To us. To us. The SUVs pulled away. I looked back at the clinic, my dream realized through his resources. Lives saved. A second chance for families who'd been written off by everyone else. They say every choice creates a new universe. In one universe, I walked past that alley. In this one, I stopped. That choice cost me my old life. But it gave me this one. A life of danger and wealth, violence and love, darkness and light. Would I choose differently? Not for all the safety in the world. Because sometimes the man bleeding in the alley isn't the one who needs saving. Sometimes it's you. And sometimes, against all logic, saving a stranger saves yourself.